Hey everyone, and welcome. We're about to go on a super fast tour of the world of data mining. We're going to connect the dots all the way from the basic ideas to the really powerful stuff that's changing, well, pretty much everything. Let's jump right in.
So, to get us started, I've got a little pop quiz for you. I mean, think about it. Of all the jobs out there today, which one do you think got slapped with that label? Any ideas?
And there you have it. Way back in 2012, Harvard Business Review dropped this bombshell. And you know what? It totally stuck. And for good reason. Data scientists are basically modern-day explorers, and the heart of their treasure map, it's data mining.
Okay, so that brings us to our first big stop. Before we get into all the cool how-to stuff, we really need to get our heads around the why. Why is this so important right now?
At its core, this is what it's all about: automated discovery. It's one thing to look at sales figures. It's a completely different thing to automatically discover that, hey, people who buy diapers on Thursdays also tend to buy beer. That's a pattern that's not obvious, but it's super valuable. That's data mining.
Now here's something you've got to know. Data mining isn't just one magic step. It's a whole process called the KDD process. And look at this, the actual mining is just step 5. You'll learn the entire workflow from understanding the problem to cleaning the data. And trust me, data cleaning is where like 80% of the real work happens. And then finally finding and presenting those cool patterns.
So, if we're going to be miners, what are we digging for? What are the raw materials we're working with? Well, it's data, of course. But you're about to see that not all data is the same.
You'll learn to handle two main flavors. You've got your quantitative data, stuff you can measure, right, like prices or temperatures. And then you have qualitative data, which is more about labels or names. And here's a tricky one: a zip code. It's a number, sure, but you can't really do math on it. It's a label for a place. Getting that distinction is key. And hey, once you find something amazing in the data, how do you show it to people? You'll learn that the goal isn't always some fancy, complicated graph. Sometimes, a simple, clean table tells a much clearer story. It's all about communication.
All right, now for the really good stuff. We've got our why and our what. So let's crack up in the toolkit and look at the how. These are the core methods you'll be using to find those hidden gems.
So most of the techniques you learn fall into two big buckets. First, there's supervised learning. Think of this like studying with a teacher who gives you all the answers. The data's already labeled, and the machine learns from those examples. Then you have unsupervised learning. This is more like being thrown in the deep end. There are no labels, and the machine has to figure out the patterns all by itself.
A great example of a supervised technique is classification. You could, for instance, train something called a neural network on a ton of past earthquake data to predict whether a new one will be minor, moderate, or severe. You're literally teaching it to put new things into buckets based on what it's seen before.
Now, on the unsupervised side, we've got cluster analysis. This is pure discovery. It's all about finding natural groups in your data that you didn't even know existed. It's like automatically sorting a giant, mixed-up pile of customer data into different types of shoppers without any hints beforehand.
And this image shows it perfectly. You start with what just looks like a big cloud of dots. But the goal of the algorithm is to look at that cloud and find the hidden structure, to automatically draw circles around the groups that naturally belong together.
So how does it do that? Well, one of the first algorithms you'll master is called k-means. It's so clever. It just starts by making a random guess for the center of the clusters. Then, it assigns every dot to the closest center. And here's the magic trick. It then recalculates the center based on the dots it just gathered, and it just does that over and over. Assign, update, until the groups stop changing.
And look at this. You can see it learning. On the left, in the first try, its guess is kind of messy, right? But then it updates its centers, and by the third iteration on the right, boom, it's found the perfect clusters. It literally gets smarter with each step.
Okay, so we've been talking about numbers and data points in nice, neat tables. But what about all the messy data out there? All the text and emails, product reviews, articles. That's a huge goldmine. And it brings us to a really fascinating application: text mining.
The key that unlocks all that text data is natural language processing, or NLP for short. It's this incredible field where we teach computers how to read and actually understand human language. Pretty cool, huh?
And you'll learn how it works from the ground up. First, a computer has to break sentences into individual words. That's called tokenization. Then it figures out what's a noun, what's a verb, and so on. It's like teaching a computer grammar, so it can eventually understand the real meaning.
But how does a computer know which words are actually important? For that, you're going to learn this brilliant little formula called TF-IDF. It's a two-part punch. First, it looks at how often a word shows up in one document. But then it balances that by looking at how rare that same word is across all the documents. So a word like quantum in a physics paper gets a high score, but a word like the gets a very low score. It's genius.
Whew, okay. That was a whirlwind tour. I know, we've covered a ton of ground. So let's just zoom out for a second and recap what this whole journey is going to empower you to do. By the time you're done, you won't just know some definitions, you'll actually be able to run a whole data mining project. You'll know how to wrestle messy data into shape, how to apply both supervised and unsupervised learning, and even how to pull meaning out of raw text. You'll have a real-deal data miner's toolkit at your fingertips.
So I'll just leave you with this final thought. Learning data mining is like getting a new superpower. It's the ability to find secrets and patterns that are hiding in plain sight all around us. The only question left is, what are you going to discover?